why is it this passage? Let me break it down in case you were confused. A sharp anti-Trinitarian is going to nail you on this. So you got, I kept looking, Daniel 7:13-14, in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, one like a son of man was coming, and he came up to the Ancient of Days and came near before him. Notice, he's going to the Ancient of Days. That's the Father. He's not coming to the earth. He's going up to the Father, right? This is Jesus going to heaven, right? That's when he came before the Ancient of Days. That's when he was given the dominion and a kingdom. Well, if someone says, well, if he's God, why does he need someone to give him dominion? Because he's the God-man. That's why it says one like a son of man, meaning he appears as a human, but he's more than human. Like a son of man means he has a human appearance, but he's more than a man. He's not just merely man. He's more than a man. So why would he need to go to heaven to receive his dominion? Because the New Testament says when he came to the earth, he took the status of a slave. Matthew 12:15-18. When our Lord was on earth, he was fulfilling Isaiah 42, where he voluntarily became the Father's servant. Behold my servant whom I have chosen, my beloved in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him. He shall proclaim justice and judgment. That's why he's on earth as a servant. He voluntarily did not exercise his royal prerogatives and demanded to be worshipped and recognized as king. He made himself nothing. So all you saw was a human being who was poor. It's when he dies and is raised, then he ascends into heaven in a cloud, right? And then goes to be enthroned again. In other words, he goes to the Father to receive his authority, his dominion that he voluntarily set aside and wasn't employing his royal prerogatives. That's why. In other words, if you believe the Bible, the Father was simply giving back to the Son the throne that he vacated for a season. And because he's God, he's worthy of that throne. But now he reigns on that throne, not just as God, but as the God-man, because he's now God in flesh. You with me there? If Jesus is God, then why is it the Father gave him life in himself? Well, number one, it doesn't mean God gave Jesus life. I want you to understand how to refute this. Whatever it means for Jesus to have life in himself, and that life that he has in himself was granted to him by the Father, it doesn't mean God gave him life, meaning that he didn't exist. This is what they're trying to prove to you. And I'm going to show you how to refute that. Even if I argue with them and agree with them, all right, at some point in time, the Father gave Jesus life in himself. But that doesn't mean he gave him life, that he didn't exist. How do I know? Because I'm going to show you something. You guys pay attention to this. This is the burial of this argument. You go to John 6:53. The Greek is virtually identical. John 6:53. I want you to see, what do I mean it's virtually identical? So Jesus said to them, now watch, Dave, you're going to amuse me and you're going to engage me, so I want you to catch it. Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in yourselves. It's the same expression.
Yeah.
Have no life in yourselves. Now, guys, can I ask everyone a question? Dave, I'm going to ask you a question. Pay attention. The people he's speaking to, they didn't have life in themselves because he hadn't given them their flesh. But weren't they still alive and conscious?
Yes.
So one more time. You got it. One more time. He's telling these people, you're going to have to eat my flesh and drink my blood. They haven't done it. Because until you do, you're not going to have life in yourself. But he's talking to people who are already alive, who are already conscious, who already exist. So having life in yourself cannot mean that you go from non-existence into existence, because they already exist, even though they don't have this life in themselves. So that doesn't prove God gave Jesus life, that he brought him into being. It ain't going to work.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah, it's not gonna work.
Because were these people alive that
Yes.
he's talking to? Were they
Yeah.
conscious?
Yes.
Did they have existence?
Yes.
Even though they didn't have life in themselves.
Yes.
So even if God gave Jesus life in himself, that doesn't mean he didn't exist until he was given that life. So what does it mean for them to have life in themselves? Well, let's see. It means until you eat the flesh and drink the blood of the Son of Man, you will not have everlasting life. All right, here. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. So they will not live forever in glorified, immortal bodies, and will not live forever in moral incorruption. They already are alive, they already have existence, but they won't have this kind of life. You see?
Yeah.
And what does it mean the Father gave the Son life in himself? The answer is right here, brother. Here it is. Note, it doesn't mean, let me repeat, it doesn't mean, one more time, that the Father gave the Son life, so that the Son did not exist until the Father gave him life and caused him to exist. How do I know it doesn't mean that? Let's see if you're listening. Because he explains to you what it means for him to have life in himself. Right here. Truly, truly, I say to you, an hour is coming, and now is, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. Now he explains how is it that he is able to make people alive spiritually and physically. Notice he's saying, the hour has come, and now is, when they will hear the voice of the Son of God, and they will live. Why is it that he's able to make them alive? For just as the Father has life in himself, even so he gave through the Son to have life in himself. That's the reason. My Father has life in himself. What does that mean? My Father, because he has life, he's able to give life to others. Similarly, because I have life in myself, that's why I'm able to make others alive.
Mm.
You understand what the meaning is?
Yeah.
The meaning is that the Father has granted the Son to be able to give life to others. It doesn't say the Father gave the Son life and caused him to exist. That's not the meaning. Did everyone get this or no one got it?
Yeah. I
You
got
got
it.
it? So, that's number one. No matter how you interpret this text, it does not prove that Christ came into existence, that Christ went from non-existence into existence. Because I just showed you the same words. Life in himself is used of those who are standing before him. Notice, they're alive, they are conscious, they're alert, they have existence, and yet they don't have life in themselves. So Jesus, having life in himself, doesn't mean until he had it, he didn't exist. That's a butchering of the words. So what does it mean? He has life in himself, meaning the Father authorized the Son to be able to give life to others. That's all it means. Right? So
Yeah.
now the question comes down to, did the Son always have this ability? Has the Son always been able to give life? Yes. When we go to John 1, 2 to 4, pay attention. Since when has the Son, since when did the Son have life in himself? Pay attention, guys. You ready? If we follow the prologue, watch here. John 1, 2 to 4. He was in the beginning with God. Beginning when? The beginning of creation. Already when creation came into being, he was already there. How do I know? All things came into being through him. And apart from him, nothing came into being that has come into being. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Now, watch. It says he was already there when the beginning came to be. He was there before all things were created. In fact, all things were created through him. And he already had life in himself. So since when did Jesus have life in himself?
Since before creation.
So that means he's always had it, right?
Yes.
Eternally, right?
Yes.
So that means when he says the Father granted the Son to have life in himself, the granting is not a moment in time. It's not talking about that the Son at one point didn't have the ability to give life, but then was given that ability later on. The granting simply means that this ability that the Son has, he has it in union with the Father, because that life that comes to creation comes from the Father through him.
Yeah.
You understand what it means now?
Yeah.
So why does God then speak in temporal language, like granted? Because there is no other way he can speak. Meaning, if he's talking to creatures who are bound to time and space and matter, and as creatures of time, we experience things as they unfold before our eyes. In what other way can God speak apart from having to use temporal language, language that will use expressions that from our perspective imply time and moments, even though God is not bound to creation the way we are, and yet for him to communicate to us on our level, he has to humble himself and use our language and our expressions that to us, in our experience, imply moments unfolding, but doesn't necessarily apply to God. How? In what other way could God speak?
He can't speak in any other way.
That's right. Everyone got it? But now there is a punctuation difference. Let's see if that punctuation will change the meaning of this text. So far, you with me, guys? Or you're? There is another way to punctuate the Greek, and some have capitalized on this to show. You see, that proves that Jesus was created. Let me get you this. I did a session on this anyway. And all these articles that I wrote was in response to pristine faith. All right. Now, Benedict, everyone else got it, right? Understand what I mean? Now, I did a whole slew of posts on how John 1:3-4 has been punctuated by the early Christians to show that none of them taught that Jesus was created and came into existence, came into being. Because he's the uncreated word, logos, who's always existed within God and did not come into being from nothing. Creatio ex nihilo. All right? Everyone got it? Now let's go right here. John 1:3-4. The Jesus Christ reign, check out. I'm going to show you how the New World Translation renders it. Because after all, they're Arians, right?
Yes.
All right. This was done for pristine faith. Now, hopefully, he'll accept correction and repent. If not, that's between him and the Lord. Here it is, New World Translation. Even the Jehovah's Witnesses don't translate it the way he wants it to be translated. Let me see. Here you go. Here it is. Here's a different way of punctuating the Greek. All things came into existence through him, and apart from him, not even one thing came into existence. What has come into existence by means of him was life. You understand?
Yeah.
Even they don't translate it to mean that the Son came into existence, that he was made alive. They even correctly understand that if you punctuate the Greek differently, like some early Christians, it means that the life that the creation possesses, the life that the creation enjoys, the life given to creation came by means of him. He is the one that gave the things that exist their life. But for him to be able to give the creation that came into being by him life, that means he already had the ability to give life before they came into being, right?
Yes.
So how does that prove Arianism?
It doesn't.
So yes, your answer is correct. It's the eternal begetting of the Son. Father's the source of all that the Spirit and the Son possess. but they've possessed it always because they've always been united with one another.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the second question? You said you had two.
Yeah. Can a Christian in good standing accept the theory of that Isaiah has multiple authors?
You asked me a difficult question. I don't know how to answer that, and that Jesus, the New Testament, attributes the entirety of Isaiah to one author, the prophet Isaiah.
Yeah, because that's all. Inspired philosophy talk about it.
Oh, he did that. Oh, this guy. Oh. This guy is so dangerous. Let me show you. Let me show you what I mean. Isaiah, because, okay, if you guys don't know what he's talking about, in scholarship today, which wasn't the case before, and it's now poisoned conservative scholarship, they will tell you that Isaiah has three sections. Isaiah chapters 1 to 39 comes from the prophet Isaiah. But Isaiah chapters 40 to 55 comes from someone else or a group of individuals writing after the Jews came out of Babylonian captivity. And then there's a third section. Isaiah chapters 56 to 66 is written by someone else or some others. So there are actually three sections to Isaiah, and not all of it is from the prophet. So they'll call Isaiah chapter 1 to 39 Isaiah. They will call Isaiah chapters 40 to 55 Deutero Isaiah, second Isaiah. They'll call Isaiah chapters 55 to 66 Trito Isaiah. Okay? Now I'm being told, inspired philosophy, the joke is now saying you can hold to that.
He also said the same about the day of Daniel.
Okay, anyway, let me show you why you're going to tell him you need to retire. You're going to find you a job. According to the Bible, Isaiah chapters 40 to 55 is written by the prophet Isaiah. Let me show you. Matthew 12, 17, 21. In order that what was spoken through Isaiah the prophet would be fulfilled, behold my servant. That's Isaiah chapter 42. Who wrote Isaiah chapter 42?
Isaiah.
But if we follow what inspiring said, right? He just said you can hold to the fact that Isaiah chapters 40 to 55 are not from Isaiah, because this section supposedly is Deutero Isaiah, second Isaiah, that was composed when the Jews came back from captivity, Babylonian captivity, meaning it was written over 100 years after the prophet died. But I read Matthew, and Matthew tells me Isaiah spoke and wrote Isaiah 42. What about Isaiah chapter 40? Who wrote that? Right? For this is the one referred to by Isaiah the prophet, saying, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make ready the way of the Lord, make his path straight. That's Isaiah chapter 40, verse 3.
Yeah.
So guys, I want to ask you a question. If my New Testament says Isaiah chapter 40 and Isaiah 42 is written by the prophet Isaiah, and then you come and tell me, well, you can hold to Isaiah chapters 40 to 55 as being written by someone else or some others when the Jews came back from Babylonian captivity, whom should I believe?
New Testament.
All right. What about Isaiah chapters 55 to 66, that section? Is that section also from the same Isaiah? Well, let's go to Romans 10. We're going to read 19 to 21, okay? Isaiah 10. And Isaiah is very bold and says, I was found by those who did not seek me. I became manifest to those who did not ask me. That's Isaiah 65.
Yeah.
And he attributes it to who?
Isaiah.
But as for Israel, he says, Isaiah, all day I've stretched out my hands to disobedient and obstinate people. So guys, Paul tells me Isaiah wrote Isaiah 65. But according to inspired stupidity, Isaiah 55 to 66 is Trito Isaiah. It's written by someone else or a group of others. And you can hold that view and still be a faithful Christian. Okay, but hold on. Isaiah 53 is supposedly written by Deutero Isaiah, right?
Yeah. According to him.
And Isaiah 6 is written by Isaiah, right?
Yeah.
According to them, Isaiah chapters 1 to 39 is written by Isaiah. So Isaiah 6 is written by Isaiah. Isaiah chapters 40 to 55 is written by someone else or a group of others. That's why it's called Deutero-Isaiah. Let's see if John believes that. Because John is going to quote Isaiah 53:1 and Isaiah 6. And according to John, who wrote both? Let's see. And here, let's do cross-reference so you can see. Isaiah 53:1. Who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of Yahweh been revealed? Now, according to liberal scholars, which now conservatives have picked up, Isaiah chapters 40, 55, not written by Isaiah. This is not written by Isaiah. It's written by an individual or a group after the Jews have gone into captivity, Babylonian captivity, which took place 100 years plus after Isaiah died. Now, Benedict, everyone else, according to John, who wrote Isaiah 53? The same one who wrote Isaiah 6, 9 and 10. How do I know? John 12, 31, 37, 41. But though he had done so many signs before them, they still were not believing in him, so that the word of Isaiah, the prophet, might be fulfilled, which he spoke, Lord, who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? So who wrote that?
Isaiah.
And what did John say Isaiah wrote? Isaiah 53:1.
Yeah.
What else did Isaiah write according to John? For this reason, they could not believe, for Isaiah said again, not according to inspired stupidity. You can actually believe that Isaiah 53 was not written or spoken by Isaiah. So is John wrong when he said Isaiah said again? Because John said, Isaiah said and wrote Isaiah 53:1 and Isaiah 6:10.
According to
So John wrong?
scholarships, he must be wrong.
So did that answer your question?
Yeah. I'm starting to see that the Protestant Reformation did a lot of damage.
Oh, a lot of damage. Let me
Because
tell you where this scholarship came from, guys. This is a fact. 1700s, out of Germany, a group of Protestant scholars started dissecting the Bible, looking at it from a human perspective, focusing on human authorship. They came up with theories that Moses did not write the 5 books of Moses. Daniel could not have written the book of Daniel. And Isaiah could not have come from one author. That poisonous, destructive, damnable teaching spread like cancer gangrene to the point that it started now affecting and infecting conservative evangelical scholarship and then poisoned Catholic and Orthodox scholarship. It did not originate from Catholics. It originated from Protestants. And yet, sadly, the Catholic scholars embraced it. That's why if you have the New American Bible Revised Edition, the New American Bible Revised Edition, a Catholic Bible, it will tell you that Isaiah 40 to 55 was not written by Isaiah. And that Isaiah 55 to 66, not written by Isaiah. So they will break it down to Deutero-Isaiah, Trito-Isaiah. And that's the result of Protestant scholarship poisoning Catholicism.
yeah.
So I hope that answered your question, friend.
Yeah. Praying for you.